So I've created a demo site here to help us kind of be at the same or similar starting point as if I were just signed up for MyLO, and this is the basic site, basic template site that I would receive. The masquerading step is something that webmasters don't have to worry about. Only Elizabeth and I will have this ability, but before I do that, I just need to make sure I have a webmaster here assigned. And I'm sorry I didn't have this step already prepared, but this is an easy way to add an existing member as a webmaster. Kind of an informal lesson here on adding a webmaster. If they already have an account on MyLO, you simply type in their name there. And to grant webmaster access, you edit each member and grant that role. So now that I have an assigned webmaster, I want to masquerade as this person so that my screen will look like your webmaster screen instead of my admin screen. Okay.
And Maurice, I'm going to interrupt you just for a moment because I have a couple questions here for people. Someone says they cannot hear and someone says they can see video but do not hear. So I want to just do a little check here of our attendees. If you have the ability to type in chat box or put a hand up in your box, can you please do so if you're having difficulties? Only if you're having difficulties. So Anne says she can see and hear. Linda still can't hear. And Margaret can see, or actually she cannot see, she can only hear. So these may be individual challenges with your particular systems. Thank you, Anne, for letting us know you can see and hear, and I can see and hear. So I don't see anyone else raising their hands or putting anything in chat. So that must mean it might have something to do with your audio on your laptop or your computer. So I would suggest troubleshooting in that way or send me a private chat. Sorry about that, Maurice, keep going.
For sure, no, I appreciate that, Elizabeth. Hopefully another way to resolve it too will be being able to view the recording at the end for those who are having audio or video difficulties. So to get started with what you're given, you may want to make changes to what is already included within your template site. The number one way that you can do that is through the menu. Not every single item within your site will be found through your menu, but you have the webmaster tabs available to you in most places where new draft allows you to make changes to what you see on the page. Web form gives you a chance to provide or ask questions so that you can collect responses, and the results go hand in hand with the web form. Another way to make changes to what's already within your site is through your Administer League site menu, jumping over to Manage Content. So this is going to be the full and complete list of what makes up your League's MyLO site. Here you can narrow things down. Let's say I only want to see my action alerts, which I have none in this site. Let's change that to slideshow items. Within the operations, let's say if I'm getting rid of this completely, that's where I can quickly make that change within Manage Content. And if I want to change either the text, and let me actually open this up so we can see what it looks like on the front. So this is the slideshow item. that we're seeing in this list. We see the title is here and the image itself. I want to change the image because let's say I want to use one of my own league's images. So to do so, I will edit the list of the slideshow item. And instead of editing, because edit will make changes to the image that's currently applied, instead of going there, we're going to remove that image entirely. So that removes the image associated with the slideshow and gives me a chance to browse for another. I can upload a new one, or I'll just use my league's files. Let's try this Centennial one here. And it's really easy to drop in an image that's already uploaded. Because I just wanted to change that one spot there, I'm jumping straight down to publish. And I set my moderation state directly to publish and save. I get that success bar across the top, and I'm sent back out to the manage content page. You can always jump back to your home page through the My League sites list or anywhere that your league logo would be listed. This will take you back to your home page. So we've updated the image. Because it's a little bit off, if I wanted to rearrange that, I'd follow the same steps. Make my way to manage content, and once again, edit that. This time, because I want to make a change to the same image, I don't want to replace it with another, I'll use edit this time, and this is the focal point. The little cross in the center will automatically just appear right in the center based on the original size of your image. You can move that so the cropping is shifted higher up or wherever you drag the crosshairs to. So let's save that. And once again, publish the slideshow item. So anytime that your images on a slideshow are shifted in that way or not cutting off a portion, an unnecessary portion, then you shift those crosshairs around. So this would be another time where I could go back in and shift the crosshairs around again, but now you know how to make those changes. Moving on to a new section, being able to rearrange the menu that you receive. Because not every page will have content, let's actually open this one up. The action alerts right now are not displaying. We will be working to have all new and old action alerts show up, but right now all expired and old action alerts won't show up on this page. So that might be an opportunity to remove it from the menu. Opening up the Administer League site menu, go on to Manage menu. Instead of, well, you have the option to either delete. You'll notice that for some, you have the delete option, but for others, you do not. Instead of deleting, you can disable those menu options or those menu items, and that menu link will no longer show. So let's do that for action alerts. Before I can leave this page, I need to save configuration, and that gives me the green success bar. So you will always, when you're making changes, want to look for the green success bar to know that that change did push on through. So I'm clicking over to the home page again, and action alerts is no longer in the menu. The page still exists, and you can find it by going back to Manage Your Menu, but the link just won't display. With Manage Menu, you can rearrange items as well. Anytime that you rearrange, you get that warning, and it's just letting you know to save your configuration. Anytime that you just jump out without saving, your original menu stays the same. I also want to showcase how to copy from an existing site. Being able to copy with existing formatting really is helpful to know. And let's actually just use a site that we know is still on Loo that might bring over some of that formatting. So I'm picking a site here just at random so that I can pull from the text. So let's use this section here and up until the PDF. So actually, let's take the whole thing. When you're copying from an existing page, best practices going section by section just to keep yourself sane. But copying and pasting from what you want to recreate on MyLO is the start. The next piece is deciding what that content should be. So taking a look at the original, this would probably be best as a committee, but instead of providing a committee page, I'm going to say that this is going to be a committee event. Actually, let's go with an event so that it is much more likely the content fits in, or the text fits in with the content type we choose here. So adding an event, we have copied what's here, and actually, I always forget to copy that top. So copy everything that you want to include on MyLO for this event. And we're going to start with the body first because I have all the text copied to my clipboard. We have a paste from Word button here that brings up a dialog box for you to either right click and paste or Control V. And this window will do its best to translate League Easy Web's formatting to MyLO's formatting. So once I pasted that in, I clicked insert and it drops that in. We see that it is probably not ready to save just yet, but that's totally fine. We're going to tweak this a bit with the way that you want to set up your page. You definitely want to make use of these headings so that you're promoting a skimmable page. We know that most users on the internet are just skimming for information. So we want to make use of the headings, but the way that they are now is definitely calling attention to the wrong items. So to make this kind of reset it, either select the heading that it's using or select paragraph. That will set it back to regular size. With these here, this text here, we have it all scrunched up. This is another that would be good for a paragraph formatting that gives you the space between paragraphs, and the caps will be totally up to you if retyping those out would be best. But here we'll do a bit of extra formatting it does kind of mimic what we have here on League Easy Web. So it's totally up to you how you want your page to lay out, but we'll add this to definitely give it a better look on MyLO. And let's take that up. So we have some better formatting there to kind of stand out this subtitle or kind of explanation of the page. With the first heading that we're going to use, it should be the largest, so either heading 2 or heading 3, so that any heading below it, say these here, it seems to be that these are the honorees. Let's create that as a separate heading. Because I have heading 3 there, I'm going to use heading 4 here. And this is something that we will often see with text that we've brought in, pasted in from another source. The formatting, the heading that we added here, you can obviously see has been taken over with the text below it. So to change that, you can use the back button to simply or easily break that. And we're going to add a space. So anytime that 2 paragraphs that look to be separate are taking on the same formatting, break them apart with one line of your enter key or return key. Now I can set that to the heading I want and then remove that extra space. When it comes to the list here, I can leave it as is, or we have unordered or ordered lists. I'm going to go ahead and use the bulleted items. And the registration here, I can copy that. And being that this is an event, we have an additional field here for event registration. This is completely optional, the event registration, and really all of these additional fields, the main things that you need for an event are the title and date information, but allowing or plugging in the registration URL provides a button for register here. So we have the text kind of done up as we want. I'm going to jump back up to the title here and fill in what I had skipped over. So that's the easiest way to get an event in. Start with the body first, and then really copying and pasting the rest of the pieces into these fields. So not sure when the event was, but because we want to see it on the calendar, we're going to make that for a date in the future. So selecting that and just choosing a time. Let's plug this in to save. The location information is nice, not required, but if you do fill that in, it's creating a Google Maps link. So let's go ahead and save that. And that's really the most basic way to get an event in from an existing page. So we have the register for this event button popping up here. So that would mean I could go ahead and get rid of that extra line. And that is the reason for leaving it in draft mode, still making changes to it. And just know that when you have a reddish background to a page, that means that you only have a draft for that version. It's not yet visible to the public. And then finally, let's apply the changes that I have made just so that we can see this on the calendar. We have now something displaying there. Let's take a look. All right, so this page is no longer empty. I have at least one event. Another way that you can make sure that this page or similar pages like articles, the action alerts was another that we had, and the positions, you can make sure those aren't empty by subscribing to other MyLO leagues. And I'm traveling back to the homepage to a new draft of the homepage to manage the subscriptions. When it comes to events, we recommend subscribing to nearby leagues. That will be probably the quickest way to get as much content as possible on your calendar. I'm just adding a few here from California so that we can see if those populate on the demo county's calendar for us. So I got the green success bar. Yeah, we do have a couple of events here from Sacramento County. So creating your own events or subscribing to them, events, articles, action alerts, or positions. It's all the same rules apply. So you can fill those pages up either with your own or with other MyLO leagues. And
Maurice, can I interrupt
yes,
you just to show how to get to the subscriptions again?
yes. So it is through the homepage and getting to the homepage either from the menu or your league logo and start a new draft. We're going to scroll about halfway down the page where we have these collapsed fields. And subscriptions has its own section there. And to make sure to add in a new league, you can either search for them in the list. The more subscriptions you have, the harder it is to see the list down here. So with any of these fields, but especially with this one, it's easier to, make sure that your cursor is blinking in there first, and then type in a portion of their name. Let's see, Reading. And once you type in enough of their name to differentiate them from another league, like if you just type in RE, it's just going to take the first RE league. So at least type in Rensselaer or Reading, something that is unique to that league, so that as soon as you hit enter, you're not having trouble finding the right one. And then after you change these subscriptions, be sure to set the moderation state to published before you save, because leaving it as a draft, the change to your subscriptions won't be apparent until you publish. And anytime, this is a good tip too, anytime that you are in a page or in a draft where you no longer want to make changes, you can either click View Published or click on the league logo at the top, and it will jump you back out without saving or making any change. When it comes to the template site, if you still have just the basic template site that you received when you got started, the main parts that will be needing some changes will be the donate and join pages. These are just filled with filler text, and there are some ways to either just change the text by kind of doing the same steps where we created the event, going based off of what you have here, and pasting it into the page directly, or you can make use of the online web form. This will essentially add a new, we'll add questions little by little to the bottom. And this is where we definitely recommend you play around with the web form. With anything in MyLO, you won't break things. We do encourage that you go through and make some choices, even if you know it might not stick or be part of the site forever, but at least being able to test these different items will really come in handy. We have some documentation which we will showcase later, and we do have some on the web forms to be able to create these for your league. I just want to show one of these being added, really for adding a component. As soon as you add the label, that's one of the only required pieces. We do our best to choose the right default options for you to show the question of the component right above. So just like this, it would say, you know, what is your name, whatever the label you would list, and within the field, you enter your response. You can provide an optional description. And another one that would come in handy is making this required. Because you'd like to know the person's name, it's probably a good idea to require ones like these. We'll go ahead and scroll past these. The good thing with forms, and that's another reason why we really encourage you to play around with the forms, is that each description of the fields is pretty good. It's going to give you a good idea of what you'll be changing, or if you add something there, what it would look like or where it would display. So please do play around with these, and even set some of them to see what they look like after you save. But let's save what we have so far. Because your questions that you're really asking most of the time, if it's a donate or join form, the information that you're looking for is pretty simple. So that makes your job easier for the components that you have to create. With most of these, because you just are providing a text field, and a text field is essentially this, the box that goes across the screen. Let's actually take a look at what we have. So I've added first name, and that's the text field there that takes up the width of the screen. I can make my job easier by cloning this and updating these first two fields. And because I didn't make any changes elsewhere, I will leave it as is and save. And another that comes in handy, where to donate, is the select options. This could be used for who to send my email to, or choosing between EF and GF for the designation, or choosing the membership type, individual, household, however many options type questions you do need to ask. So again, the description is optional, but here we see with select options, a new field is required. There is an explanation down here of the way that these should be listed. And again, that is found in the documentation a bit more in detail as far as the type of safe key that's required. So essentially, we need every option to look like that in some way. So there needs to be something on the left of this symbol, we're going to make that easy. I want to donate to education fund. And the other will just be GF. But whatever is on the left-hand side is totally up to you. It won't be shown to the public, and it is just for the system to better track the responses. And you can have as many options as you need. Another cool thing is having a group name. So within each, I could have these two levels, and then below this, provide a group name and have a secondary list of options. Because this is a simple question, we only have the two. You can allow for multiple, but this is a one or the other question, and will require this one just like the others. And again, the display is another, or they're worth playing around with to test out the different display options you have. But let's save that and see what we have so far. It's the basic pieces of creating a web form. Text field and select options will be super helpful. And please do check out the other types. So after you have edited the text above through the new draft, you'd go through web form to add the questions here down at the bottom. And through web form, going back through there, you can set up emails to be sent to, let's say, if you needed your treasurer to be notified, you'd type in their direct email address. Or you can choose, we can choose, we don't have a question on the form yet of what is your email address, but we definitely can add that and use that person's provided email address as the recipient. But let's just set this up so we can see what these questions look like, or adding this setting. The email to address is what you just provided. Enable sending, you don't want to uncheck that. And the email subject and email from address are filled in by default, but you can definitely customize those or set them to, let's say, the respondent's answer from the form. And you can edit the individual email that this person would receive. So the lwvc.org email, if I want it to say, this is from our MyLO site, something that's a little different than maybe what the donor or the joining member would get. Save email settings. Oops, and I accidentally set that to custom. We'll leave that as default and save. So anytime that somebody would fill out the form on the donate page, LWVC at lwvc.org right now is set up to auto receive those responses. Now that we've gone through and set that page up, let's go through setting this site live just on MyLO so far. That's step one of your Leagues Go Live process. So I'm back on my home page. I am starting a new draft, and the Go Live setting, it's going to be found under Advanced Settings. and it is titled Restrict Entire League to Members Only. So once you start a new draft, scroll down to Advanced Settings and locate Restrict Entire League. Once you set that to public, we scroll down to the very bottom once again. And because we are making a site-wide change to publicize the entire site, we need to publish that. And once you save, you'll notice that kind of loading bar that will be the only time that you'll see that loading bar, and that tells you that it is going live. You'll receive the success bar at the top, and there will be two ways to verify that you've gone live. One will be going back in to the new draft and looking at that spot again. So go back down to Advanced Settings. Okay, I'm set to public. But another way to do this is to check out the MyLO homepage. From anywhere on your site, if you scroll to the footer, there's a link here, My League Online. And this takes us directly to the MyLO homepage. Because Demo County is listed, that's the other detail that tells me I have gone live. So success there. That's step one. With leagues who have a domain that's separate from your MyLO URL, you'll need to take additional steps. And here I'm going to open up the documentation page. You will need to take additional steps with your domain name provider. And depending on the provider that you do have, the steps will be unique to their interface, but essentially kind of largely the same. So let's check out the documentation that we have. If you haven't seen this already, this gives you a good idea, kind of background on your domain name and general idea on what it would take to point that to your MyLO site. But let's take, I don't have a domain to demo, but we can take a Google search, for example, because that is essentially what you'll need to do to find the right steps. With every domain name provider, the first step will be to reset the name servers. And name servers can be two separate words or one word. Reset the name servers, and anywhere within there, add in your domain name provider. So that's GoDaddy or that's Network Solutions, any provider that you have, just search that all together. I'm just adding in another one here. I have domainname.com. So reset name servers or update name servers, but the gist of the instructions should be to set your name servers back to your domain name provider. And I'm going to close this here. So reset, update, but any word that kind of means the same there, reset or update, name servers, and then your domain name provider, whatever company that may be. Right now, if your domain is pointing to your League Easy website, just based on my recent searches here, if we look up the domain name report, and this is public information, we can see that the name servers are currently set to ns.ls ns2.lwvnet.org, and the other is ns2.lwvnet.org. These are what are bringing up or pointing to your League Easy website. These are the League Easy web name servers. Once you reset these to network solutions or whoever your registrar is, you'll reset those. And once you do, that will grant you access to take the final step. The final step is the forwarding of your domain. And that is another one that you can simply Google, forwarding your domain, and search the domain name provider. With the forwarding of your domain, there is a difference for network solutions customers. So far, network solutions customers have gotten in touch with us, so that's been great because you will need a separate set of instructions, and the MyLO team will need to take an extra step before you can proceed. So please do reach out to us if you haven't already, if you manage a domain through network solutions. But forwarding your domain will be searchable, Googleable for most any other domain name provider. It's another one I can think of. Yeah, so forwarding your domain, URL redirect is another one that is quite different from the original phrase that we were using. That is another that will give you some good results. Googling forwarding your domain or URL redirect, and then including your domain name provider. So those are the very final steps, taking those with your domain name provider. And that's kind of your wipe your hands, kind of wait for the domain to do the rest of its job. There will be some propagation time involved. Most domain name providers, they'll quote 24 to sometimes 72 hours, just to allow for full loading across all customers' ISPs, the internet service providers. Yeah, so I think that we can possibly open it up to individual questions if we have any.
I do, Amaris, and thank you so much. That was so informative. And I know you were talking for quite some time and might need a sip of water while I read these questions, but that's fine. So we got a compliment too. Thanks so much. Anne says, really great instructions, as the go live steps were just what she needed. But she had a question more specific to the Facebook feed, if you're able to answer that one. But her question is, can I place that in the middle of the page rather than on the left side?
The Facebook, is it
Facebook
the link?
feed?
Oh, okay, the link, the feed itself. You can place the feed. Essentially, any HTML code can be placed throughout your site. The Facebook code, let's see if I can pull one from an existing site here. Because essentially what I'll do is just peel it from here, and we can show you what that looks like in the page. Let's start a new draft.
And while you're getting that set up, it's sort of a related question, so I'm gonna just jump in here. Faye was asking about, can you add a blog feed like from WordPress next to the Facebook and Twitter feed?
Okay. Yeah, all you need essentially is the code that would make up the feed. So what I have now, I've copied from the demo local site. I just want to make sure that, so this is what I'm copying. It's the Instagram feed. But what it looks like for me when I'm editing the page is this, because I have it set to full HTML. By default, most text boxes are set to WYSIWYG, and that will show you the pretty side. It makes the HTML code display as the feed. But leaving the code as it is on full HTML is necessary to keep the widget working. I just want to show you what that looks like. If I leave that as WYSIWYG and I publish, we'll see that it breaks my feed. So that's rule number one: use full HTML with the HTML code. So that leaves you with two options. If you want to display this on your home page in the body, you can add it to the homepage main body content and switch to full HTML. Or, so if you switch to full HTML, that allows you to paste in what you've copied. You can preview by looking at the WYSIWYG, but be sure to save in full HTML. So that's one option. I'm going to remove that to show you the other option. And the other one is just adding a separate text box. This is better for housekeeping. It won't show any different to the on the public side. So adding it down here in its own body with embed code box, it's still going to show up right underneath the homepage main body content. So let's actually save that. But doing it in a separate, adding it in a separate box of its own keeps you more organized, and you won't have to set the entire box to HTML, full HTML, if you don't need to. So let's publish that. The sidebar is visible throughout the site. So this is technically, or actually this is the body. So we can leave that as a draft to just to test it and see what that looks like. So we have that now, and that's what that would look like on the homepage, right above anything you had promoted. And the only downside with having on your homepage and not the sidebar, it's not visible throughout your site. So if I travel to another page, I don't have it here. But you definitely can add.
I want to jump in just as a reminder to people about other ways to do this is, you don't want to add every single thing right to your sidebar because it'll get too jammed up. So it's a good idea just to keep your website fresh, to change things around once in a while. You can also utilize, your call outs on your homepage. Don't forget to like us on Instagram or follow us on Twitter. And the same way, you can use your articles in that way. So, hey, come check out our new Instagram page so that it's in the articles as well. Because don't forget, most people are finding your site using Google search. They're dropping in, my town, USA voting, and they're going to find your site in that way. So it's a good idea to offer your information about your different social media platforms or whatever you're promoting in your articles and in other places. So just a tip about that when you're feeling like, gosh, I want my Instagram, my Facebook, my Twitter, my join, my donate, everything in the same small column. So feel free to spread that around, and it's a good best practice. I also want to give you another question and a clarification for people as well. Somebody asked about when, how long they're going to have access to their LO site, the information that is on their LO site. And then the next question I have to speak to here, we're getting a few all at once. And this is regarding the donate and join pages. So I think she's speaking specifically of web forms, and she's asking if we can add a checkbox next to the various selections. I think she might mean versus a radio button. I'm not exactly sure. Maybe you can provide us some clarification on your question that came from Judy, if she's speaking about the radio buttons versus a checkbox, if you could offer us some clarification. And then the final question that hopefully you can address is Beth says, my MyLO account has not gone live yet. Once I've updated the components and put publish in the moderation state, will the website be available to the public?
Let's start with the last one first. The homepage of your site is what controls your overall privacy. That is what dictates if your entire site is private or if it's public. We have set this site to public, demo county here, and I've gone through to a new draft of the homepage. And under the advanced settings, if your site is set to private under restrict entire league to members only, this guarantees you that your entire site is private, whether or not you are publishing pages within it. So it is using the word published makes it a little confusing because some people do assume that that is publicizing it, but because your homepage is controlling, you don't have to worry about that you're showcasing some pages while you're still trying to keep it private. It will remain private in its entirety.
And thank you, Amaris. And actually, I think the questions were already answered regarding the donate page. She now sees the radio buttons on the web form, and Judy is clear on that. So we can move on from that question. And just to give you a time check, Amaris, we have about 5 minutes left. So I want to make sure, it looks like people are able to use the chat box or the question box for their questions. I did, just as a housekeeping measure, I put a link in our chat box to the documentation. Another person had some questions very specific to network solutions. So I asked her to email you directly, Amaris, to set up a time to talk more specifically rather than just during this webinar. So she will be reaching out to you regarding network solutions. If you have questions or you think you might have questions later, you can always email us at MyLO, so that's MYLO, at lwvc.org, and we're happy to help answer questions. And here's another one from Anne about will the old LO sites be available after June 30th?
Yes, they are not going to be going dark at that date. We will still be maintaining the servers, so that means any live sites that are still on them, any archived sites that are still maintained on the server, and then any redirects. So if your league was using a LO URL, let's see, something like, I can't think of one right now, but it is the generic League Easy Web URL. Let's see if there's one here. Here we go. So this league was a former League Easy Web, and let's let me copy the address that I just clicked on so that we can see this a little bit better. So this is, this is the address that is the generic League Easy Web address. And these are currently redirecting, because Carol Watts so graciously has done this, to your new site. So if your league does not have a domain, but does have the League Easy Web generic URL, then all you have to do is email Carol and ask her to point this to your MyLO site. Those redirects are still intact. We will keep the LU server active at least going into July, but we will keep y'all posted with more information going past that.
Thanks, Anne-Marie, super helpful. And I also will add there too that in those instructions, there is the ability to sort of download all your documents into one place, all your stuff from LU. So there is something to do there if you have concerns.
Yeah, that is a great point. I also want to point out the help site for LU. That is where you'll have a lot of information about leaving, and just like Elizabeth mentioned, finding that information on pulling out your current information. Specifically, help.lwvnet.org/intro. This is the information on moving to another web host. And let me throw this in the chat.
Thanks, Anne-Marie, super helpful. And you got a lot of thank yous today from a lot of different people, very helpful, from Linda
Awesome.
and Anne and Faye, and everyone really appreciated what you did today. So thank you so much. And we're almost nearing 3 o'clock and I don't see any more questions here. So yep, everyone says thanks, great idea. They have a place to download content. So now everybody understands what to do. There was one final question about when this would be available, if it would be available after 3. And unfortunately, it takes a few hours for GoToMeeting and GoToWebinar to sort of process and make available the video. But as soon as it is ready, it will also be emailed to all of those attendees who signed up. And we'll make sure to post that in our documentation and help sections. Actually, maybe we'll post it to the Google group as well if people think that it's helpful in that way. So I think with that, Anne-Marie, is there anything else that you'd like to add today?
I just want to make sure that for those of you who might still have questions, be sure to reach out, like Elizabeth said, either through the Google group or you can reach us directly at mylo@lwvc.org.
Well, great. Well, with that, we're going to end our webinar. Thank you so much to everyone who attended and asked questions today. Again, reach out if you have any further questions, and we're so happy you're MyLO customers. Have a great day, everybody.
Bye-bye. Thank you all for attending.